What is going on, Los Angeles? Welcome to the LA Football Show here on the LA Football Network. And we are live after this unbelievable Rams victory, 17-16. We got Skinny T out on the streets. He was at the game at SoFi. My brother, what was the atmosphere like in this game?
It was rough to begin with. It was hard to be around a lot of those Raiders fans who were just cheering and jeering, and they thought they had the game in the bag, even though they were up by only 13 points at the biggest gap. But it turned around really quickly, and that's why we love this game. It just happens just like that sometimes.
Yeah, I mean, we'll get all into it, but unbelievable the Rams able to win this game. On our show, we actually, Jamal and I predicted, both of us thought the Rams would actually win this game because it would be the most Raiders thing ever to go on a three-game win streak and then ended up losing to a 3-win Rams team that were, whether they played John Wolford or Baker Mayfield off the streets, what more of a Raiders thing to happen than losing this game in Los Angeles in front of probably a pro Raiders crowd, as was mentioned many times in the broadcast. You obviously saw it. I've been to many of these games before, so I kind of know how it goes. But, man, pretty awesome to see that this team overcame. I mean, to me, Ryan, we'll start with this. To me, this was not even this. These last 3 games, to me, have been the best coach games of Sean McVay of this season. And I know 2 of them were losses. One was a win. A lot of excitement out there. Love hearing it. But to me, these were the best 3 coach games of Sean McVay of this season. Do you agree or disagree?
This one in particular, I would have to totally agree with you. Last one as well. Just fantastic called game. I mean, tale of 2 halves, really, I would say. And they were able to make it happen. There's some fights happening right in front of me.
Is there fighting? Let's see it. Get on the camera. Turn the camera around. Oh, boy.
Passionate fans.
Must see TV. Must see TV, yes.
Yeah. I was expecting something like this in the Rams game. I didn't see anything in the stadium, but it's spilling out into the parking lot as well. This is like a WWE situation. We're getting no holds barred.
Well, I mean, off topic, and this is, I don't want to generalize over a fan base, obviously, because that's never good to do. But when I went to a Raiders game up in Oakland back in, I don't know when this was, 2009, I think, long time ago, and went there as a Broncos fan, Raiders-Broncos game, and basically I was told I was wearing a Broncos jersey, rocking my Elway jersey, and I was told by multiple Raiders fans that if the Broncos had won that game, I would have probably not left the stadium. So,
oh my gosh.
Considering the Raiders lost this game, I can see why now those emotions are spilling over because they did win it. And I experienced that firsthand at that stadium. So,
yeah. So back to the coaching. What did you see that you thought was just exceptional coaching by Sean McVay tonight? And then the last 3 weeks.
Yeah, I mean, for me, honestly, it's the fact that it's not even like necessarily the scheme design or the X's and O's or this like unbelievable like play calling that everyone loves to talk about. Not even with just Sean McVay, just with offenses in general. it's like, oh, it's all about the OC and the play calling and the X's and O's and how you scheme things up for your quarterback. For me, though, it's about how this team has just competed and all the injuries, literally starting 2 weeks prior, starting their third string quarterback, last week starting their second strings quarterback, this week starting a waiver wire quarterback. Granted, Baker Mayfield first overall pick at one point, but still a guy that's been in this, as everyone that watched the game knows, for 48 hours. And the fact that two of those games,
he landed in LA on Tuesday night. Can you believe it? And he was the best quarterback for the job. Yeah.
Why? And we're going to get into all Baker here soon, but I just think the fact that you had those three different things, so 3 different quarterbacks in 3 weeks, all the injuries of offensive line. This was the first game of the season where you had your offensive line, the same 5 from the previous week. All the injuries on defense, all these different things, and the fact that all 3 weeks they've been in these games. They've been competitive. They've at least had a chance to win. I didn't really have a chance to win against the Chiefs, but they at least competed against the Chiefs in Arrowhead. Last week they had the lead till the final drive. And so I think it's just, to me, it's not necessarily schematically that McVay has been genius with these new players and whatnot, but the fact that he's risen these guys up, they're competing, they're playing their butts off, and they're doing their best, and they've been exciting football these last 3 weeks, and obviously they got the win tonight, which made it that much better.
Yeah, and it's one of those things that we haven't seen a lot from McVay over the years, is these comeback victories. He's famously very good when he's up at halftime, but when he's down at halftime, that's when he loses his games, and those are the comebacks. And it's just really encouraging to see that he can put that together, and that this team can kind of keep it together and really just turn it around in that second half. It was just a night and day situation where the offense just kept getting better, and the defense just kind of buckled down and made it happen.
Yeah, exactly. So, and here was, okay, everyone that has hated the defense, hated Raheem Morris, all this stuff for all year long, which I know last week, they gave up that game-winning drive. I know against the Buccaneers, they gave up the game-winning drive against Brady. But overall, they've been a fairly good defense. But I think this right here, this stat, Greg Beacham of the AP, we both know Greg, great guy, tweeted this out afterwards. I knew it had to be close to this, but I didn't know the exact stats. In the second half, Ryan, I don't know if you realize this. In the second half, the Rams defense allowed 67 yards and 2 first downs. Davante Adams did not make a catch, and Derek Carr went 2 for 7 for 11 yards. This defense in the second half balled out. Unbelievable.
Absolutely, yeah. I did not realize it was that that overwhelming. I think they just held them to 3 points, and everybody's criticizing this defense, and not everybody. You and I aren't. There's a lot of people just criticizing this defense, but what's been incredible is they are holding teams to fewer points than they averagely score. They did it with the Chiefs. They did it again tonight. The Raiders score over 23 points a game. And coming into this game, they put up 40 on Seattle a few weeks ago, and the Rams were able to hold 16 points. It's this defense is no joke, even without some of its premier players. Its premier player, its number 1 player, Aaron Donald, hasn't been on the field, and that defensive line, they gave up some yards on the ground, but when it came down to the crunch time, they were able to shut it down. That was just amazing to me to watch. Guys like, Bobby Brown and Jonah Williams and Marquise Copeland coming up with big stops. We even saw a Keir Thomas sighting, which, I didn't think that guy was going to make the team, much less get it into a game in 2022. So, they're doing it with bubble gum and shoestrings, but it's happening. And, Ramsey got burned a couple of times, but I think he did his job today as well. We'll take him off washed watch for another week.
Yeah, I mean, overall, Davante goes three receptions for 71 yards, no touchdowns. Like I said, shut down in the second half. And, part of that, I think, was you could blame part of that on the Raiders and Josh McDaniels, they got super conservative in that second half, and that I think benefited the Rams. But the Rams stepped up to the job and really definitely, seized the moment and took advantage of what they had to do. So, yeah, impressed by the defense, impressed by the guys that have stepped up, impressed by Raheem Morris, and a Raiders team that, granted, hasn't had the stiffest competition. Obviously, played a good Chargers team last week, but they've won 3 games in a row, and now that they had like the playoffs in their sights if they just kind of kept it rolling. And the Rams, of all teams, basically shut the Raiders out of the playoffs, which is probably why you're seeing fights behind you. That's probably why they're really upset, right?
Some of these fans, I just don't understand. There was a guy that was bawling as I was leaving the stadium. I don't know. I think they're working out other things.
Yes,
that's what makes this sport beautiful. We all get to come out here.
Probably more than just the loss, but a lot of consumption, I'm sure, going on. With the fan base there. So,
for sure.
As all always. Right. Well, we got to get to Baker Mayfield.
Yeah. Story of the day. Come on.
Signed on Tuesday. He said, obviously you're at the game, so you didn't hear it, but he said he was on the Thursday Night Football telecast after the game and said he bought a ticket to LA before he was claimed, just because he was confident that the Rams would claim him. Total big move. Love it. Jamal and I talked on our show a few days ago that this is zero disrespect to Stafford. Obviously, Stafford is a great quarterback, arguably top 20 of all time. Brought this team a Super Bowl. But when you just look at personality, like Baker is more an LA style quarterback. Like he's LA. Like he's Hollywood, 100%. And here he comes in his first game. Doesn't know the playbook at all. Has to be a very vanilla offense and leads this team to a victory. Like, how impressive, Skinny T, was that tonight to watch in person?
It's just incredible. I mean, it's hard to put into words because it seemed like he was falling out of the bottom of the league. Just can't even make it with the Carolina team, much less, win a game in the last minute and 45 seconds, go 99 yards or 98 yards, whatever it was. LA is a team where you can redeem yourself. We saw it last year with Odell Beckham Jr. coming in, everybody talking about how he's a locker room cancer and all that stuff. But he comes in, he plays his part, he does the thing that he needs to do, and now he's going to get another contract at the end of the season. Might win another Super Bowl with whatever team he ends up signing with. I wrote about how I think Stafford is probably going to retire after the second pretty serious neck injury, back injury, spine injury. That's just a hunch that I have. And if Baker can continue to prove himself over the next 4 games, he can earn himself as a spot as a Ram, maybe as a backup, but maybe as a bridge quarterback. But he also just might earn himself a good contract with a quarterback-needy team, which we know there's several of them for next year.
Yeah, 100%.
I tweeted out after the game, all the Rams rushed onto the field and congratulated Baker after the win, and it has to be just such a good feeling to have this victory at this time with everything just mounted against him. It's just incredible, and just the fact that he was able to just come in and make it happen it's incredible. It's the stuff of legends.
Yeah, I mean, well, I was telling my wife after the game, and she could give 2 S's about football, but I was like, babe, you don't realize you don't understand the gravity of what just happened. Like, this is a guy that literally landed on the tarmac of LAX on Tuesday, joined this team Tuesday night, had 1 day of essentially a dress rehearsal, and ended up starting in prime. Or not starting, I know that Walford played 1 series, but ended up playing basically on prime time for the defending Super Bowl champs. Yes, the season hasn't gone right, but now you're on the biggest stage. And lead your team to a victory. It's incredible, and I think it's what you want to see from a quarterback. And I'm not sitting here saying Baker's the future of the Rams. Baker's better than Stafford. Baker's the start next year. I'm not saying any of that. But for this moment, like, it was such a cool thing to see. And, hats off to Baker. It was awesome.
Yeah, absolutely. It's good to see. Yeah, absolutely.
And I think we've been I don't think harsh is the right word, Ryan, but we've been fairly critical of McVay this season, or at least before these 3 weeks, because of obviously the injuries have mounted on early on this season. But there was a lot of things where we thought that he could have helped his offense in terms of scheme, in terms of taking the pressure quarterback, in terms of the running game and whatnot. But I think tonight it shows yet again what a great coach he is. The fact that, I mean, the Rams had no reason winning this football game. No reason. And Baker, obviously, the last 2 drives, but just the fact that they were able to band together and get this win, that shows just the culture of this team. Baker talked about it. You obviously didn't see it, but talked about it after the games. Like, you can tell as soon as I got here, like, the culture of this locker room and the band of brothers these guys are. And I think that's a special thing that Sean McVay's brought to this team, brought to LA, brought to this franchise.
Yeah, it's one of the biggest things I have to say. I always talk about what a soft landing spot LA is for these kinds of players coming from these kinds of situations that Baker has. It's just incredible. And the fact that McVay actually pulled the trigger, yanked McVay after one series, and put in Baker, it shows a lot of confidence that he has already in Baker. And it also shows a willingness to make a change partway through the game, which that's one of the big criticisms is sometimes he tries to mash the same button on the remote control, expecting something exciting to happen. And this time he switched it up. He exited game, changed characters, came back in, and started making adjustments throughout the game. I mean, it's not like Baker's first few drives were exciting or interesting or anything happened on him. But by the end of the game, we saw that he was settling into a nice rhythm. So we got to give credit to McVay on that, because that's something that we haven't always seen, a willingness to change, certainly in mid-game, but also, going away from a guy. He likes his guys. Wolford's one of his guys, and he moved away from John Wolford. So pretty interesting thing there. Yeah.
So, okay, before we wrap up, Ryan, if we are going to be critical of McVay, one thing we got to bring up, and everyone loves talking about it, Tutu Atwell. Hidden. He's been in a cave this whole season. All of a sudden, the last 3 weeks, when it's like, well, we got no one else, we start seeing him come out. We see some explosive plays. We see the touchdown. We see him in the run game. Tonight, Skinny T, 8 targets, 5 catches, 50 yards. And they were great catches. And some of them were nice hands catches over to the sideline, clutch on 3rd and long. Yeah. So if we're going to be critical at all of McVay, it's like, why have we been hiding this guy? Look at Tutu. Look at him go.
Yeah, I mean, he would have saved us a lot of grief of having to answer questions about what Tutu Atwell is what's gonna happen with Tutu Atwell. Is he a bust? Should have they gone another way? So McVay, do us a favor. Make this happen for us. Feed it. Yeah. Give the little guy the ball. You and I, Team 5'8". Let's go, baby.
That's right.
And Ben Skowronek, he and McVay seem to have something going there. They got a good chemistry already, and he's leading receiver Ben Skowronek. I think he had 80 yards or something like that. I can't recall, but yeah, I mean. It's kind of what I was talking about with that switch from Wolford to Baker. It's like we gotta see all of these guys, and they just don't make those substitutions all the time. They don't give those guys a chance all the time, and these injuries have just forced the hand of McVay to make it happen. And I'm really excited about Van Jefferson, and I think that that's another one we're going to see him kind of blossom and grow in that role. He's now the de facto number 1 receiver. He's got the most experience. He's and he's the most qualified to do it. And he's shown he's a really good receiver. So we'll see. I'm excited to see what happens with him as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So, so pumped to see Tutu, go out there and just have a great game. So pumped to see Benny Sko have a great game. Van Jefferson had a solid game, and I think it shows, Ryan, how important at the end of games the quarterback truly is. And I'm not sitting here saying Baker's a Hall of Famer or whatnot, but end of the game, like, Raiders knew what was coming. They knew what was going to happen. And still, they were able to drive 98 yards down the field. And on that last play, and I could be wrong, but I thought I heard Baker say it at the end, but that last play, he basically said he was shocked that they played man-to-man on that, with 15 seconds left. And so he checked out and basically called a go route to Van, and they hit it for the touchdown. So that shows how important quarterback play is and how it really makes a difference in the game, and it did in this one. So excited into the future. Final thoughts, Skinny T from SoFi.
This is just reinvigorating. It's a lot more fun to write about a winning football team than a losing football team. So just for myself and everybody all the Rams fans here, it's just something exciting. Even if they win out, they're going to end up being a losing football team this year. But this is when teams grow, and we're already seeing the growth from these young guys on this roster, from McVay as well. And I think it's going to, if they're able to put together a good end of the season, it's going to ensure that guys like Donald are going to stick around, McVay's going to stick around, and then we'll see what happens, going forward after that.
That's exactly the point. These are the kind of wins where McVay's like, yeah, I want to keep coaching a little longer. Donald's like, yeah I know I didn't play tonight. I wish I was out there because I saw the vibe, the excitement from our team, our fan base. And so these are the wins. If you can stack some at the end of the year, you get your team fired up and say, okay, let's get it healthy. Let's add a few more pieces, and let's go back next year and be what we know we can be, what we should be, and what we will be moving forward. So great win for the Rams, 17-16, beats the Raiders at SoFi Thursday night. Skinny T, for the Rams, live at SoFi. I'm Ryan Dyrud. Skinny, thank you, brother. Appreciate you.
Always. Thanks a lot.
All right, guys. We'll talk all throughout the week. Make sure to check out LAFBnetwork.com for all your Rams coverage. Peace.